People who said, you know, this just isn't hard for me. And I asked, when did it stop being hard for you? Or what was the event that made this easier for you to do? Because for each of us, if we find that we're pretty comfortable being uncomfortable, there's probably a moment in your life when you decided or experienced something that said, okay, I'm ready to do this work. So what I will ask each of you is to keep seeking surprise. Because if you're not being surprised, then you're not expanding your world somewhere else. You're not figuring out the things that you haven't figured out yet. So surprise journals. And it can be as playful as, I was surprised that I got a discount because I'm a senior now. I mean, it doesn't matter what the surprise is. Ask yourself, what have I done lately to expand my world and my understanding? Because a belief is not merely an idea that your mind possesses, that those beliefs will possess your mind. And if you're not being surprised, you might be on a bit of autopilot. You might be playing a slightly small game. And that's okay if you're working on the happiness part and the intention part. So this is a drawing of your brain. Me in PowerPoint. So your subconscious mind is this big one here, and your conscious mind is these little conscious thoughts that you have. And if we get into the depths of the neuroscience discovery teams, there's some arguments about this illustration. But we're just going to have fun and say that generally we can use this premise. And then you have a thought, and your thought is diversity. I want to hire somebody who is disabled. Not just like Monique Deaf in 1 year, but more disabled. But what happens is your subconscious mind immediately says, here's the problem. If I hire somebody who's disabled, they might not fit in. And actually, it might be really expensive. You know, what is reasonable accommodations? And what if they can't do the job? And then, you know, if it's not working out, I mean, even if I can legally fire them, will I feel like a chump? Is for each thought that you have consciously, there are some pieces inside you that are scared. Partly because you might not have all the information you need, partly because it's something you've never done before. This has happened for each of us in our lifetime. Probably most of the people in this room have kissed somebody in a romantic way by this point in time in their life. So before you ever had kissed somebody, you probably thought about it a bit. And it was probably scary and exciting. And then once you've made that leap, it's probably been easier to kiss somebody after that. Maybe not always, right? But, you know, in general, like, okay, I did that. But before that, you had all this, well, what if they don't like me? What if our braces hook up? What if, you know, and what if? So what happens is that this is often described as having sort of a rider and an elephant. So if my subconscious mind is an elephant, that's my emotional core. If my conscious mind is a rider, I picture me on an elephant. Come on, tug on the ear, kick a little on the side, we're going to move. If you aren't aware of all of this subconscious stuff, then it's really hard to make a giant step forward in saying, I'm going to try to hire somebody who's neurodiverse, or I'm going to try to figure out how I'm accidentally excluding people with my marketing. I'm going to find out what it is so that somebody who comes into our culture feels like it's not their culture too. So what I'll invite you to do is think about when you feel that sort of, I don't know, it's scary. You may just need some information. We'll post some great resources, like there's the Jan Network, which can help you with figuring out how to hire people with disabilities. Some articles about hiring people with conviction histories. And what I can tell you is generally when people do this work and really commit to doing it well, they're really glad they did. They get fantastic ideas by bringing more minds and experiences and perspectives to the table. And so in the people, planet, profit, purpose, if your purpose is to do this with intention and kindness and compassionate curiosity, your profits typically, if we look at people who've done it before you, go up. The planet, globally, if we're all succeeding, even the people that are historically marginalized, the planet does better. So in this piece that we're trying to do here, this is really, really great and valuable work. Any questions about this? Heard about the elephant and the rider before? Yeah, okay. It's a great metaphor, I think, because in every moment you are having an attract or withdrawal reaction. How much longer is she going to talk? I wonder if there's going to be, then there's this, like, or, okay, that's interesting. Oh, she made me laugh, right? Your elephant is driving a whole lot of what you're experiencing. So you might have a great idea, but if you know you're having a lot of nagging fear about doing that great idea, try to see what's coming up for you. What's the stuff that's saying it's never going to work? Because if you don't do that part, it's going to be a whole lot harder to move forward. And we have a great resource in the room. I had a great conversation with Caitlin Winters. Where did you go? There she is. Raise your hand. Hi, be proud. Okay, so Caitlin Winters here. If we want to expand and try to bring somebody who's a little bit different into our workplace, for example, she works with youth at Squalicum High School. And for most of us, bringing on a youth for just a trial period is scary, as bringing on an adult who's going to be on our payroll. So if you want to say, hey, I want to try and have somebody come check things out, day or two, a week, or internship, there's a good baby step. So some of that withdrawal, some of that fear is, I don't want to do it big, because then I might make a mistake that's big. She'll coach you through it. So I'm really glad to have that resource here in the room, and thank you so much, Caitlin, for giving me permission to shout you out. All right, let me make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Okay, so in each of these things, when I talk about your quadrant, your affect style, when I talk about all these groups, these are all just general guidelines. And what I'm really encouraging you to do is just think about who you're leaving out. Is your website something that people can navigate easily? Do they have to use a mouse, or can they use the tab to go through everything? How are you going to ask people? If you haven't been surprised lately, how are you going to go get surprised? When you're doing your job listing, so one of the task teams at Whatcom Community College has been invited to make sure that our job postings have equity and inclusion in them. Look for language. There's some great apps where you can scan for language. Am I accidentally skewing to hire people just like we've always hired? There's lots of different resources, and we want to make sure that you're thinking about it in both ways. Who's on your team and who's receiving your products and services. Because when we advertise, regardless of whether it's to expand our, whether it's to expand somebody using our products or services, or whether it's bringing somebody on who my heart has been aching for them to find an opportunity. Wow, that company gave them an opportunity. What happens with every consumer is when you include people and you don't exclude people, they vote with their money. If I know you're a company that's making a spot for the person that I love who's neurodivergent, who's been in and out of trouble while they were navigating, I'm going to be more likely to be more loyal to you. Well, thanks for giggling at that ad. I had fun looking for one. Okay, so the basic wrap up here is wherever you're ready to do it, don't hire people like us that are already here. Look for ways to be a place where people belong. Start asking people, what identity do you check at the door? I was a single mom for a very long time. I was in poverty. It surprises some people. No, I used to sleep in my car. So can I tell my coworkers about that? Can I be accepted for my journey? It's become some of the greatest assets when I serve people, that I can look at them with lived experience and say, yeah. So are you making a place where you are fostering that belongingness and getting ready to expand that belongingness? Are you really looking at the assets of all the diversity and experiences that people can bring? And how are you asking who's missing? It's really easy to count who's here. And for me, I love being surprised. And so can you value that? Can you value making mistakes? Can you laugh and say, wow, you know what I did the other day? Because if you share your whoopses with somebody, maybe they'll have fewer whoopses. And maybe you'll be a little bit more compassionate on making mistakes in this work. And then expanding your reach by simplifying your requirements. Maybe you don't need to ask for a bachelor's degree, because maybe other people didn't have a fair shake at getting that. So I'm seeing a lot more job descriptions. It helps, by the way, that the unemployment rate's so low, because we're all desperate for good talent now, right? But that's when we start to drop those requirements. When the unemployment rate was really high, no offense with McDonald's, but they were requiring high school diploma or GED. So when we have the labor force, this is a great time to really reach out and find people that haven't been having success getting hired. I will make these resources, Sometimes it just doesn't translate right, just like life. These are resources. There's some others. I'll try to make sure that I'm really thoughtful about the conversations that came up today to expand the resources that I share with Mark, but I am exactly out of time. Any last questions? Thank you guys for playing.
So, I don't know about you all, but how about another big round of applause for just what I've been presentation. Once again, Monique, thanks for telling me that I was doing the wrong thing and I had a great team around me, but also that to help us try to figure out how to do the right thing. I wanted to give a quick shout out to our table sponsors today, Business Support Services Northwest in the back there. If you need QuickBooks help, if you want to learn how to benchmark your sustainability reporting, figure out chart of accounts, job with that.
Thanks for asking questions. Thank you. Thanks so much. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you.